Grant chimes in, over under 18 passing touchdowns for Iowa quarterbacks this year.
I am going strong. We're going over. Don't know when the last time it was over, but we're going with it this year. Looking at Mark Gronowski's arm, he's a consistent deep ball thrower. And, with some of the targets we have, like Reese Vanderzee, Jacob Gill, Seth Anderson, you got Kaden Weech, and hopefully he breaks out too because I want to see his speed, man. So I'm hoping he breaks out. Then don't forget, we're still tight end university until we're not. Addison Ostrenga, we got some pretty big targets out there that Mark Gronowski is going to look to throw to. And since we've kept that continuity with the O-line, who's going to surely give him some time to, sit back and kind of find those open targets, we're rolling with over 18. We're rolling with it.
Let's see here. I'm trying to dive back into the annals, and looks like 2018 with Nate Stanley would have been the last time that Iowa eclipsed 18 passing touchdowns on the season. Stanley had 26 touchdown passes that year. So you're going a ways back. You had 16 in 2019, so it just came under that number that season. I think the better question is, if Iowa goes over 18 passing touchdowns, how many games are they winning? If they unlock the passing attack, because basically that's what you're asking, Grant, is can the Hawkeyes figure out how to be a competent throwing team? Can they find out a way to be explosive in the throw game at times? Not all the time, right? But at times to be not totally one-dimensional. And if Iowa adds that to its offense, then, I mean, how many wins are we talking about?
That's a great question. I'm just thinking about how, our throwing game was not strong 2 years ago, but we still went 10-2. Should have been 11-1. The called back touchdown on Cooper DeJean was, not the fairest of calls, no pun intended. But I'm gonna roll with 10-2, maybe 11-1. But at the same time, you got to think about how much we lost on defense and what realistically that could look like. Not doubting our prowess to, for players to step up at all, but our defense might not be as strong as last year's or the past 2-3 years, to where our defense might not carry us to 10 wins or 9 wins or 8 wins. It's going to be more the offense this year is how I see it. And, from what I got from Omar Young, his introductory press conference, it was looking like it's going to be run first, regardless of, who we have at quarterback. So if it could be run first, but still be way more effective in the passing game, you got to think that the offense is going to score a high amount of points more than last year, and certainly more than how it was 2-3 years ago. You got to feel good about where our win total is going to be.
And I think Tim Lester has been pretty open and honest about the fact that the throw game is set up by the run game for Iowa, which you hear a lot of coaches say that, but those Shanahan concepts, right? If you can run the football effectively and the timing, if Gronowski figures out, all we heard last year again and again and again from Tim Lester was, we have to get Cade McNamara. We have to get Brendan Sullivan. We've got to get these quarterbacks into a place to where they understand the timing of the throw game. But again, that also works in concert with the defense having to pay respect to the run game. So I believe what Omar Young said. I think that will continue to be. Look, it's Iowa. The run game is going to be important, right? The ability to win the line of scrimmage. And if it's Kamari Moulton, which I think, that would be my odds on pick, that it's Kamari Moulton as your lead guy. If it's Jazzy Patterson, they need the run game to be effective in order to get to the point to where we're talking about north of 18 touchdown passes. But, if the Hawkeyes are north of 18 touchdown passes, I'm looking at it, the schedule itself, and we'll do this on a later show in more detail, Chris, but look, I see winnable games for Iowa if they can figure out how to throw the football. Indiana, you'd have to think, is taking a step back. You have to go to Iowa State, to Rutgers early. I think both of those are both winnable games for Iowa. Indiana, again, I think is taking a little bit of a step back. Wisconsin, you're going to have to prove to me that you are figuring it out under this coaching staff before it's the Wisconsin of old that you, I mean, look, it's at Wisconsin, so that's going to be a challenge. It's always going to be a challenge. Penn State will be a tough game, obviously, with everything that they've got coming back. And then you host Minnesota. Oregon should be tough. We'll see about at USC. And then the final two, I think you should feel good about your chances to beat Michigan State and to go to Lincoln and to rip Husker hearts out once again. But if Iowa can throw the football effectively, man, I mean, you tell me, which games are you not feeling good about the Hawkeyes winning? Just off the top, looking at this, Penn State, Oregon, maybe USC would be three that come to mind.
Mm. I would agree with those. Penn State is probably the one I'm most worried about. Just looking at what they've done last year, and I know they're losing Abdul Carter and a couple others on the defensive end, but that's a top tier program that's right there, and they're with the best of the best. They were one game away from competing in national championship. So that that's a team to worry about. I think Oregon, for some reason, Oregon, tomato. I know some people call it different. I'm not as worried about them. USC, not as worried about them either. I feel very confident in what I was able to do this offseason, and the kind of versatility our offense is going to bring, and especially passing wise. I expect a lot out of us passing, but Penn State is right off the top of the bat. The teams he just listed is kind of the only one that still makes me question whether we're going to be able to have a consistent offense against. I think the other ones, I feel good about it, especially Tim Wester's offense. Like we did very good with him last year, and that continuity, bringing him back, is only gonna. You got to anticipate it's going to be stronger.
Drew Aller, where are you at on Drew Aller? Is he ever going to be the great quarterback that some people think that? I mean, look, he was a 5-star signee for Penn State, but the end of that playoff game, sour taste if I'm a Penn State fan, but gives me a little bit of hope if I'm an Iowa fan thinking about hosting Penn State. One of the best memories in recent times for Iowa is that win over Penn State.
Yeah. That day so bitter for me. I had a lot of friends that, I was back home in Illinois at the time, and I had a lot of friends that came up for that game. All my friends rushed the field that game, and all I got to do is sit back and, reminisce what it would be like to do that, because I was not there. But got to be a huge game. And I think for the next recent time, at least for the ones that were actually able to witness that game in person, or just Hawkeye fans that, were watching on TV, that's going to be a matchup that when we see Penn State, we'll always think of that moment. And hopefully, I think Drew Aller is an elite QB. He had a rough playoff game last year, but I think he's elite. But I'm going to take Mark Gronowski over Drew Aller. I'm biased, and I'm excited to see that matchup next year. We're going to see what that looks like.
Yeah, that has a chance to be a sneaky good game that week in the just greater pantheon of college football. Paul, this is all we need. Hawkeyes, baby. We don't need any analysis, just simply Hawkeyes.